One of Formula One's most provocative and divisive characters abruptly disappeared a couple of years ago, but could he be on the comeback trail and bringing a new manufacturer with him? Cyril Abiteboul will return to a major motorsport category in 2023 when he leads the Hyundai World Rally Championship team. It'll be the Frenchman's first frontline job in motorsport since being axed from the Renault Works F1 team he led for many years ahead of the 2021 season. Now you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but since when do you cover the WRC? But the thing is, we're hearing some interesting stuff about Hyundai from an F1 perspective. So Abiteboul's move feels like it could be the start of something bigger than just leading the World Rally team. As we thread things together in this video, let us know if you're enjoying it by commenting and hitting the like button, and if you can subscribe to our channel as well and turn on notifications, you'd be really helping us out, and in return, you'll stay up to date with all the biggest stories in Formula 1. Abiteboul rose through the ranks of Renault over the course of 2 decades, to the point of becoming the most senior public-facing figure of the company's Works F1 project. He ran 2 different F1 teams, Caterham and Renault, and in between spent several years solely in charge of Renault's engine program before its Works team was revived in 2016. But Abiteboul abruptly left the company at the start of 2021 ahead of its Alpine rebrand and has been largely out of the headlines since then. Last year he was announced as an advisor to the Mechachrome company that supplies engines to the Formula 2 series and was tipped to join Stellantis, the automotive company created as a result of a massive Fiat-PSA merger, and potentially lead the new Peugeot hypercar project. That didn't happen, but he's now returning to a different prominent motorsport position after all, and it's one not just outside F1 but outside circuit racing altogether. Abiteboul will take charge of Hyundai's World Rally Championship team, which has lacked a permanent team principal all season. As we said at the start, we've got a feeling that this isn't all Abiteboul has joined Hyundai to do, and we've got good reason to think that, so stick around to the end of this video because there is a lot to explore. If you want a hint, it's all to do with Hyundai being genuinely interested in a new F1 project. For those of you who, like us, are a little less familiar with the comings and goings of the WRC, it might interest you to know that Abiteboul is joining a team in considerable disarray. Drivers have been squabbling with each other in the media and questioned the job of senior team members, while the brand's motorsport president has made controversial team orders decisions. Hyundai hasn't had a full-time team principal since Andrea Adamo left at the end of 2021, as it parachuted in powertrain manager Julien Moncet on an interim basis. The word deputy was never dropped from Moncet's job title, so Abiteboul already has a head start on his predecessor with full backing from the board. For all the intra-team chaos, Hyundai had its most successful season by winning 5 rallies in 2022, so there is obviously potential to land the manufacturer title-winning team a first ever Drivers' Championship. Is Abiteboul the man to do that? Well, his F1 record was patchy at best. Abiteboul became one of the most public and recognisable figures of F1's V6 turbo hybrid era, yet it was largely not for the wrong reasons, but not exactly for the right reasons. He became a symbol for the toxicity between Renault and its most famous customer Red Bull. He also had a tendency for getting way too carried away promising the world, then getting annoyed that people held him to his own expectations and timelines for things. Essentially, Abiteboul wore his heart on his sleeve in Formula 1, and that made for a brilliantly entertaining character, if not always for the most astute team boss. Abiteboul's explosiveness meant he could often come across as a bit of a caricature, and maybe didn't always get the respect he deserved. He is a smart and sharp person who often had quite interesting insights into broader F1 issues, like the bloated calendar, and ultimately he was able to recruit both Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso to an underperforming team, although a cynic might think that may be just because he promised more than he should have by way of results, or salary, or maybe even both. But if Abiteboul was not that highly rated as a serious F1 operator, it's mainly because beneath the hyperbole and the chaos, there were also serious question marks over how he ran things. At Renault, he seemed to get entrenched in company politics, which is what gave the Works team a false start in 2016 because Abiteboul couldn't work alongside racing director Fred Vasseur. Time and again there would be signs of the team firing into life only to stagnate, with lots of changes at technical management level. Eventually, Abiteboul ran out of either time or excuses. When the Alpine rebrand came about under Luca De Meo, there was talk of Abiteboul being moved across to lead the automotive side of the business. He was put in charge of the Renault Group's plan to make Alpine a more substantial part of its business model in late 2020 and was rumoured to be shifting into a less F1 focused role in 2021 to embrace Alpine responsibilities full time. But then he left the company altogether before the 2021 F1 season began, and the fact Alpine didn't replace him as F1 team principal for 12 months suggests he was simply made redundant. Given Abiteboul's F1 record, even if you assumed Hyundai just wanted someone with top-level motorsport experience to lead its WRC team to glory and didn't care what their specific background was, his appointment is not exactly a guarantee of success. Clearly, Hyundai's first priority was just to identify someone capable of leading the WRC program, but maybe this is seen as a means to a greater end for the Korean manufacturer. Ex-Suzuki MotoGP boss turned peripheral Alpine F1 management figure Davide Brivio and ex-Lotus and McLaren F1 chief Eric Boullier were apparently targeted by Hyundai before it committed to Abiteboul. We can't help but notice the common thread between Brivio, Boullier and Abiteboul is varying degrees of F1 experience. And it would seem a waste for a manufacturer to hire someone with Abiteboul's background and park him in a discipline he has no experience of, especially when that manufacturer has been linked with exploring a move into F1. Our understanding is that there is real F1 interest from Hyundai, even though such a move would be a massive undertaking and mark its first foray into Grand Prix racing. Hyundai has positioned itself as a keen participant in motorsport using alternative powertrains, so far with production-based cars in the WRC, which went hybrid for the first time this year, and also the electric TCR series. It's also hinted at interest in the Le Mans hypercar arena, possibly with a hydrogen car project. With F1's increasing global appeal and growth in the United States and Asia, it's easy to make the commercial case for Hyundai to go for a V6 turbo hybrid F1 engine project, especially as F1 is believed to be extremely keen on a new race in South Korea, with the capital city Seoul known to be a target and a Grand Prix there having the support of local politicians. Hyundai's interest is only interest at this stage, and any kind of commitment would not be a short-term thing. Even readying an engine for 2026 might be too soon. But there certainly seems little harm in Hyundai seriously exploring an F1 move, one that could ultimately come at the cost of the very WRC project that Abiteboul's gone to Hyundai to lead. But what better way to scope all of that out than to tap into someone of his experience, someone who not only ran F1 teams but spent years at the head of one of the 4 V6 turbo hybrid F1 engine manufacturers. Hyundai is getting an experienced, intelligent, passionate and dramatic team boss, so Abiteboul will probably be good value in a WRC context alone, even if it might not quite live up to expectations. And maybe a WRC role is all this will prove to be. But there were plenty who believed Abiteboul had enough experience and contacts in the F1 paddock to return to it one day. Given he left after falling out with one manufacturer, it's easy to see the personal appeal of making his comeback by leading a brand new one onto the grid.